Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, The Black Accountant. It's your boy Mo, and if you haven't already done so, you know the drill. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and let me know in the comments of any kind of content you want to see going forward. But most importantly, don't forget to turn on notification bells so you get notified when I drop new videos. Man, so today I want to talk a little bit about asking for help. And this is one of those things that a lot of times I used to always look at as just weakness, right? Where it's just like, why would you need to ask for help? Just figure it out. Just do it. You can always take these steps. You can always just, act on things. And while that is definitely true, and I think it is a part of things that we should be doing, it's always also okay to admit that you don't know what you're doing and to ask for help. And I'm not talking about this from a mental health capacity. I'm talking about this from an everyday life type capacity. And I think there's a couple of reasons that we don't usually ask for help. And I can really speak for myself here when I talk about gender, especially, right? Me as a male, you sort of, as you grow up, you're always told that you need to be self-reliant, and you do need to be self-reliant to the degree where you start being able to strategize, you start being able to really solve your own problems, to move yourself beyond certain, pull yourself out of tough situations, essentially. But that doesn't mean that you can't ask for help. When it comes to asking for help, there's a lot of reasons why we don't usually do that. And I'll say like four that really come off to me are culture, gender, pride, and need. And those four really stick out because I think they're like the main ones, at least for me. I don't know about everybody else, but generally speaking, I think those four are really big. Number one being gender, right? Because as a male, especially me myself growing up, I've always found it to be the case that there's this expectation that you can just pull yourself out of everything, that you need to be self-reliant, that, that you hold everything in, that if you're suffering from something, or if you're falling behind, you just need to figure out how to get better at it or do better at it. When in reality, you can always ask for help. And it doesn't mean that you should become super reliant on help on a consistent basis, but it means that that option should be available to you, and you should be able to do that. Because if you're not able to do that, chances are you're going to be that person that's always trying to pull yourself out of every situation. And then there's a lot of areas where you're going to really be lacking in, when they could be easily improved, or certain problems in your life could just not exist just because you asked for help. But yeah, that's number one. Like, gender is number one. Number two would be culture. And I always talk about culture on this channel because, like, coming from an immigrant family, that is a big part of things. And that's also another one where it ties very closely in line with gender, where the expectation is that you don't ask for help. That you sort of just keep pushing. And then there's pride. And pride is probably one of the biggest ones for me. And it could be pride of, I don't want to ask these specific people or this person for help because either you just don't vibe with that person, you don't mesh well with that person, or you don't want to owe them something. Man, actually, that's a big one also in culture, is not owing a favor to anybody and feeling like you're indebted to somebody for helping you or for asking you something. And it could also just be, that level of shame where it's just like, I don't want to admit to myself before even admitting it to somebody else that I don't know what I'm doing or that I'm struggling with something. And then the last one being need, where you become so self-reliant that you don't feel the need of including other people into whatever it is that you're doing. And that also can start harming and affecting you in different areas of life. Now, what areas of your life are generally affected by that, right? I would say your work, as in your career or your business or entrepreneurship or whatever venture you have, your relationships, definitely, and the level of progress that you make. These are all affected by whether or not you ask for help. And I'm going to focus in on each of these. When it comes to work, especially a career type job, a lot of times it's all about strategy. And I could talk about this from a corporate perspective because I am in a corporate job. It takes a level of strategy and skill to get to the top, or to move up, or to get to certain areas, or to just be successful in that position. So you can do all the research that you want. You can kind of trudge along, But if you want to accelerate that process or you want to actually do it well, this is the time to actually ask for help. And asking for help would be either seeking mentorship, finding people who are either in your position or have already been in your shoes to ask them what their experience was, and then surmising from that how you want to act and move forward. Asking for help doesn't necessarily mean, hey, I need you to pull me out or I need you to answer this question for me. It's more like, what information can you give me that will aid me in being better or doing better or excelling? And that's the benefit of mentorship, which I did a whole video on. The next one would be when it comes to progress. And I had just touched on that. Progress is accelerated a lot when you allow people who have already been in the space or who have already been successful in something you want to be successful in, give you tips, give you some advice, and recognizing that as an adult, you really have the full autonomy and the full capacity to decide how much of that advice you want to use and how you want to shift that advice to really work for you. Because you don't have to take everything directly from the mouth and apply it. It's more like, let me take this with a grain of salt and see how that works for me myself. And I've been finding that to be the main reason I've ever accelerated in any space. Is I've done a lot of research myself, and I would do an effort over and over and keep learning from my mistakes. But then it would take me a much longer time to continue in that cycle when I could have just asked and gotten to that same result a bit quicker. But then again, learning from your mistakes is also part of the nature of life, and I think it makes successes a lot more meaningful. But at the same time, there's certain times in life where you might want to move past that a little bit faster. And I think the third area here that's really affected by a lack of asking for help, or if you do ask for help, is your relationships, right? For me, I grew up being a very self-reliant person. And that's just mostly because as a kid, I was always put in situations, and always, as I grew up older and older and older, into situations where I just kind of had to figure it out because either nobody around me knew the answer or nobody around me was available to help me. But the negative impact of that, or the bad part of that, is that I developed that mentality now where I just do as I do without asking, when I could just find these answers, or I could just ask for these answers that will simplify a lot of things for me. And I think that's been my adopting model for 2022. I've been asking a lot more help, and it's been very, very enlightening because I've been seeing like, hey, these are a lot of mistakes that you're making that could easily be avoided, or here's some tips on how to get better at that or do better at this thing. And I think it started creating nice and meaningful relationships for me that just stemmed from general interest. But being too closed off or afraid or not willing to ask for help might start isolating people around you that are very close to you, like friends and family, etc., because you're not involving them in whatever it is that your interest is or whatever it is that you're doing, and it makes them feel less and less important to you. And I might just be speaking about my specific case, but I think this generally applies to most people. And I think that's why asking for help sometimes can also just be including people, even if you know the answer or you know how to do something, allowing somebody else the chance to do that thing for you so that they feel important. Like, I have a little brother that's around 9 years old, and I think to make him feel a little bit more included when I'm working on something, especially if I'm at home, I'll kind of explain what I'm doing and indulge him a little bit in conversation while I'm doing it. And then in certain other areas, I would allow him to actually do a task, even though I would do it much better, but just allow him to do the task so that he could either get better at it or just feel like he's included in what I'm doing and feel like he's not a burden to me, or feel like he's not infringing on my space or my time. I want him to feel included and wanted. But I think those are the general big effects that come from asking for help or not asking for help, is that it does affect these areas. And it's always something that can be worked on. But that's all I really had for today's video. Let me know what your thoughts are on the topic in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.